The current Pope is probably the most progressive by far that there ever has been. I guess given the fact that popes have been around for a long time, that's a pretty relative statement. But the current Pope is good as popes go. Woke Pope. Woke. One might say. Just 2 days ago, he said that priests can baptize transgender people. Now, obviously, this comes with a qualifier, as long as doing so doesn't create public scandal or confusion among the faithful, which is, I think, a pretty standard refrain, addition to the statement. So take that with a grain of salt, as you will. However, please understand that in the context of Catholicism, this is a massive step forward, okay? Keep in mind, it was only about 70 years ago that the Vatican II happened, and the Vatican stopped officially blaming Jews for the death of Christ. Okay, we're rapidly shifting from an era where, like, you know, Catholics, like Nazi Catholic, shaking hands over hating Jewish people, to where we are today, more progressive than your average rightoid. Pope Francis has repeatedly held through his papacy that the document reiterates the church is not a toll house, doesn't want more complaints nailed to a door, and that the door of baptism should not be closed to anyone. The document, which was signed by Cardinal Victor Manuel Fernandez, says the church was not offering approval or disapproval of the idea of gender identity. Pope Francis has referred to the specific understandings of gender theory that include trans people as a form of ideological colonization, and the document makes clear the baptism of transgender people should not cause scandal. I want to qualify this because I'm not making the argument that the Vatican is, like, radically pro-trans. But, let's read a little further. The term scandal in Roman Catholic theology has a specific meaning different to the more common use of the term to mean moral outrage. Rather, the catechism, I don't know if I said that correctly, of the Catholic Church describes scandal as, quote, an attitude or behavior which leads another to do evil. The person who gives scandal becomes his neighbor's tempter. So in this case, by scandal, what they mean, catechism, thank you. In this case, what they mean by scandal, they mean, like, provoking sin in others, essentially. That definition goes on to say that someone causing scandal, quote, damages virtue and integrity, and that doing so could draw, quote, his brother into spiritual death. The new Vatican document says trans people, as well as people in same-sex relationships, can be baptismal sponsors and witnesses at weddings. That's a pretty... Again, we're grading on a curve here, okay? Keep in mind, there are hundreds of millions of Catholics. There are many, 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 many people who hang on the word of the Pope. This is an unbelievably huge shift since the previous Pope, the previous administration, or papacy, I suppose. Oh, we'll get to that, Air Strikal. Oh, we'll get to that, Tootie Siggy. These questions came before the Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith, in part because official Catholic teaching, according to the Catechism of... I love saying that, Catechism of the Catholic Church, is that same-sex sexual behavior is a grave sin and that homosexuality is objectively and intrinsically disordered. Pope Francis's approach, however, has been to repeatedly welcome LGBTQ plus people into the church, once saying, who am I to judge? Who am I to judge? Who am I to judge when asked about gay couples? Okay, so I'm not an expert in Catholicism, but here's my understanding of how this is going down, okay? Most people who consider themselves, like, traditional Catholics, all right, believe that homosexual sex is a sin, a man laying with a man and women with women, whatever. Now, the line that often gets used is hate the sin, love the sinner, which ostensibly means you might say that the sex itself is a sin, but that doesn't mean to be gay is sinful. Now, that is in and of itself still homophobic. I'm not saying it's not. However, if applied textually, that is significantly more progressive than the moral denunciation of people simply being homosexual. The problem is that in practice, people who say hate the sin, love the sinner, also hate the sinner. Like, a significant portion of people who say, oh, we're not homophobic, we just think it's a sin to commit the act, also discriminate against gay people. What the Pope is doing here is being textually consistent. By saying that gay and trans people can be godparents and witnesses at weddings, by saying that they can be baptized, even if the church still officially denounces the act of homosexual sex. This is a more consistent treatment and is therefore better than the inconsistent dishonesty that was previously like the standard affair of the Catholic Church. And what's more, and this really depends on who you talk to, but my understanding is that textually speaking, it is not the responsibility for a Catholic to pass judgment on another of their flock, or even on another of another flock. Essentially, what Pope Francis is saying by responding, "Who am I to judge?" when asked about queer people in the church, he's saying, that's not my deal. Let God decide. Now, again, I don't mean to say this is radically progressive. The Pope still no doubt believes that it is a sin to have, male-on-male sex. But I want to, I guess, contextualize the Catholic understanding of sin relative to other places where it appears. Catholics sin all the time. That's why they have confessionals. Like, the idea of if you sin once, you're out, that's bullshit, okay? Anyone who says that about gay sex, like anyone who would imply you're going to hell purely for like lying with another man or whatever, total bullshit. The whole point of confessional is that you speak your sins and are forgiven, Hail Mary, blah, blah, blah. That's the whole point. So essentially, imagine Pope Francis might say, it's a sin to, covet thy neighbor or whatever. But would he then excommunicate someone for doing so? No. Can you imagine a church that excommunicated everyone who coveted? You wouldn't have a flock. There would be no, you wouldn't have anyone. Everyone covets. Everyone. So I think what we're seeing here, I just want people to understand how progressive this is, because what it looks like is happening is that the Pope is enforcing a more consistent attitude on sin with regards to queer people. One that treats acts of queerness, like a man lying with a man, the same way a Catholic would treat, coveting thy neighbor. That is to say, it's bad, it's sinful, but it's not an existentially invalidating thing the way they have hypocritically deemed it to be in the past. Does that make sense? Does everyone understand what I'm like? There's a big difference between saying, I think that gay sex is a sin, but gay people are still free to participate in the flock, and also you can just confess your sins, and believing that gay people are an abomination, which has been the default line before. Huge, huge step. So yeah. The statement says that too many bishops and priests have made it difficult for members of the queer community to receive sacraments, which are central to the lives of Catholics. You guys have no idea how much this might shift the lives of queer people living in predominantly Catholic countries. Like Italy, Spain, sure. Latin America, I mean, Mexico and South, man, a lot of Catholics down there. And I know not all of them hang on the words of the Pope. Catholics have mixed opinions on the Pope. For example, fake American neo-Nazi tradcats who convert to get out of their porn addiction hate the Pope. But they're not real Catholics anyway. They just like Deus Vult memes. Many people who actually are Catholic care. Do you think all this is because the Pope is a liberal PR team? No. I don't want to sound like one of those Jesus Christ was a hippie or a socialist types, because I'm not. But I do think that this current Pope, Pope Francis, is being more consistent and more biblically accurate in his translation of the text. If the popes of years past understood that sin was human and you could confess your sin away, there's no reason why that wouldn't conceptually apply. I think the world that's implied in what he's building, that like the world that this could build, is one where in predominantly Catholic countries, if you are gay and you come out to your hardline Catholic parents, they might roll their eyes and treat it the same way as if you talked about how you got in a fight at school, or you get caught having done some drinking or something when you're 17 or whatever. They would treat it like one of those sinful things that humans just do, but you can, go to confessional. And again, that's still homophobic, but that's a hell of a lot better than the historical attitude, which is that being gay is some kind of extra special, ultra secret evil sin that is so disqualifying for your humanity that you stay in the closet your whole life. You know? Does that make sense? Does everyone understand? How long standing do you think his statements will be? Well, it's possible for people to go back on like the words of former popes, but he's literally the pope. I mean, in terms of how much his words mean, he's pretty up there. Presidents go back on their words more often than popes do by a big margin. So, yeah, it's a big deal. For the clippers in the back, you should specify that you don't mean this is a good point to settle down, and you don't mean you expect no further progress ever. I hope, as long as people are religious, I hope those religions are progressive and treat queer people equally to non-queer people. That being said, we should still recognize how big of a step up this is. And I would much rather, like, gay people in conservative Catholic families in Mexico have parents who go, oh, you're gay? Well, okay, we can talk about that. Than being like kicked out of their house or beaten to death. You know, like the in terms of like the scale of harm here, if you're a Catholic parent, you have to forgive sin from your children because again, everyone sins. Everyone. It's not like Protestantism where people pretend that they live perfect lives or whatever. Like the whole point of being Catholic is going to the church and going to the confessional booth, not getting molested. That's a big part. That's a big, like, you know, that's a big part of the skill involved. And confessing your sins. So as long as it gets treated like any other sin, that's a big step up. Oh, by the way, I do think that the destigmatization of homosexuality in the church will lead to a reduction in pedophilia as well. Because I think that there is an almost like one-to-one direct line between the sexual abuse of children from the churches and a culture of sexual conservatism and sexual moralizing in Catholicism. And this isn't not just like in a you know, people being out gay like fixes because it's more complicated than that. It's more about the culture of repression, I think, that contributes to the you know, the abuses in a lot of cases. Didn't the Pope say priests can f women now? Is that true? Oh, Pope Francis signals openness to blessings for same-sex couples. This was from a couple months ago. That's not what we were talking about, though. But that's also really good, by the way. That's really good, by the way. I don't know if he said that. I think it would be considered extremely controversial if he said that priests could have relations. They're not supposed to do that. Whatever the case may be, there was another positive story. Look at this. Pope Francis, same guy, removes a leading U.S. conservative critic as bishop of Tyler, Texas. My man got yoinked. Pope Francis, a.k.a. the living voice of God, ordered the removal of the Bishop of Tyler, Texas, a conservative prelate active on social media who's been a fierce critic of the pontiff and has come to symbolize the polarization within the U.S. Catholic hierarchy. I'm guessing this guy was more of a tradcath type, aka a Nazi, but I don't know that. I'll give it a look. A one-line statement from the Vatican said Francis had relieved Bishop Joseph Strickland of the pastoral governance of Tyler and appointed the Bishop of Austin as the temporary minister. One line. Fucking smiting. Strickland, 65, has emerged as the leading critic of Francis, accusing him in a tweet earlier this year of undermining the deposit of faith. He has been particularly critical of Francis's recent meeting on the future of the Catholic Church, during which hot-button issues were discussed, including ways to better welcome queer Catholics. See? Not only is he putting forward unprecedentedly progressive messaging on queer people, he is smiting the homophobes. Well, they're all homophobes textually, but you understand what I mean. Let's frame this in context if we can. I swear to God, I've heard the name Strickland before. In fact, I'm almost positive I've heard of Bishop Joseph Strickland, or former bishop. It's so weird seeing a bishop who doesn't look Italian. Like, what are you doing, man? Just like go be Protestant. What are you doing? You look like a wasp. Be a Protestant. What are you doing? Let me look at this guy's Twitter. Do you think he's seething? I would be. Huh. Well. He's being referred to here as a darling of right-wing Twitter. God damn, look at the drip, though. Oh, here we go. A firebrand prelate who in recent years questioned the safety of the coronavirus vaccines called synodality. New word? Synodality. Catholic Church term used to describe the process of fraternal collaboration and discernment that bodies of the synod of bishops were created to... Okay. And endorsed a video that attacked Francis himself as a diabolically disoriented clown. Dog, how the f do you think you're going to keep your station in the church if you're calling the Pope a diabolically disoriented clown? He's the voice of God. This is like, if you're Catholic, you can't, I mean, they do, but you can't go against the Pope. He's not just a guy. Okay. He has been relieved of his post. That language, not typical in Vatican diplomatic speak, appears to indicate that Strickland had refused requests to resign. Nice. Where is he on the pedo scale? This guy's almost certainly a pedophile. The shocking part for me was not that Strickland was going against Pope Francis, but seeing a Catholic bishop behaving like a fundamentalist Protestant. Yes! This is a huge diss from Massimo Fagioli, theologian and church historian at Villanova University. That just... I am shocked and dismayed from Mr. Fagioli to see one of our own acting like a Protestant. That's what I like to see. Oh, this is his Twitter. Okay, I don't know what... Never mind. Strickland also disagreed with the Pope's call for resignation against other bishops being caught in a sex scandal. Oh, well, there you go. Pedophile confirmed. Sex abuse scandal. August 2018. Released a letter accusing several high-ranking prelates, including Pope Francis, of covering up allegations of sexual abuse against former Cardinal Theodore McCarrick, calling him more responsible, clear Francis to resign. Strickland stated he found Vigano's allegations credible. Strickland said he never agreed with Vigano calling for the Pope's resignation. He was satisfied with the Holy See's investigation. Okay, that's a little bit more complicated. This is more internal politics than it is him just flat out being pro-pedo. He's still pro-pedo, of course. He's still a pedophile. But this in particular is a little more complicated. Politics. He said, after Pastor James Altman made a video saying you cannot be Catholic and a Democrat, Strickland told his followers to heed this message. Okay, so this guy's just a Protestant. This guy just acts like a fundamentalist Protestant. You can't say you can't be a Catholic and be a Democrat. Are you insane? I'm surprised he didn't get ousted earlier. Spoke at a rally in D.C. held by supporters of President Donald Trump who were trying to overturn the... Dude, he was a insurrectionist. I agree with his removal from the church. Anyway, I don't know. I just feel like it's been a pretty good week for the papacy. Don't you guys think so? I think it's pretty good. You know, there's like a 1.3 billion Catholics. How many Catholics on Earth? Yeah, 1.36 billion. Which is a lot. It's a lot of people. Give me the chart. Give me the chart. Too many? Okay, again, I've gotten hate for this before, but from the perspective of an anti-theist, I vastly prefer Catholics to Protestants. For one, Catholics, like, the problem is, like, regardless of what the actual text says, like, Protestant evangelicals are the most dangerous force in America by far, so I am biased in that sense. But also, it seems like Catholics have a bit of... My experience with knowing Catholics, like, knowing human Catholics, not online, not in politics, whatever, just knowing people who are Catholic, is that they are occasionally informed by a moral center that seems to be structured by the religion. That is to say, they will do something bad and think, oh, I'm a Catholic, I shouldn't do that. They'll feel guilty about it. That's a big Catholic thing. And it will, like, influence their behavior. I have never met a Protestant who did this. In my life, in my experience, I have never once met a Protestant who did something bad or was going to do something bad, paused, thought, no, my faith should guide me to better behavior, and didn't. That every time I've encountered a Protestant who invokes their religion, it has been in the context of them justifying things they already wanted to do. There are plenty of Catholics who do that too, but, you know, also Catholics are better churches. Yeah, the Pope finally played the copy of Undertale he was given. Yes, I'm sure conservatives are not happy at all about the Pope dismissing that bishop. By Protestant, do you mean evangelical or broadly, or genuinely broader Protestant faiths? Well, I'm referring to all Protestants that I've ever known. However, like Protestants, you guys are responsible for the evangelical community. That's the most politically powerful block of Protestants in the United States. Like, obviously, I'm sure if I met, like, I haven't met every denomination of Protestant. There is a billion of you guys, you know? The Nazis were also more popular among Protestants. Yeah, I think I remember reading that. Oh, yeah. Religion and Nazi vote shares, a geographic distribution of Protestants and Catholics. Where over here, the darker the area, the more Catholic, and over here, the darker the area, the more Nazi votes. Pretty much a directly inverse proportion. Isn't Matt Walsh a Catholic? Like most conservative demagogues, Matt Walsh does not actually believe in religion. Matt Walsh is almost certainly one of those trad-cath neocon, not neocon, neo-Nazi types. The idea that Matt Walsh might be a Nazi is not exactly like a hard line to sell me on, you know? He acts like an alt-righter in basically every way he can. You know, he acts almost identically to them. Yeah, it's like Catholic in name only. They don't care. A lot of people in America, this is like a symbol of America's spiritual rot, I think. There are many Americans who are very far right, who associate Western traditionalism with Catholicism. So what they'll do is they'll do this whole the West is dying shit, and then they'll go like, yeah, actually, I'm a trad-cath. Look at the Crusades. Look at our big cathedrals. Look at the cool clothing we wear, blah, blah. Now, in reality, they don't actually do anything Catholic. They don't go to confessional. They don't participate in any of the, they don't do that. They don't go to church. But it's like a LARPy badge, a medallion that they wear to give them more like authentic trad credibility, which conflates with the fact that at the moment, the Catholic Church is actually shifting more and more to the left. Yes, exactly. I'm a gold dude. A perfect example of how little they actually believe in what they say. A lot of the previous trad-cath types are now moving over to the Orthodoxy because the Christian Orthodoxy Church is almost completely controlled by the Russian government. Like the head of the Orthodoxy and the Kremlin are like hand in hand. Very, very direct line with each other. So now that the Catholic Church is going woke, they can go with the Orthodox Church, which is why 5 years ago there were a bunch of fake trad-cath bitches, and now there's a bunch of fake trad Orthodox Church bitches, you know? Oh, this is what was said earlier. Pope Francis says Catholic Church banning priests from engaging in sex is temporary. The Catholic Church began requiring celibacy in the 11th century. Please let priests again. Dude, if you could just let priests be normal people and have wives that they could pump thick loads into on the nightly if they want to, like, just let normal people be, like, you have to be a freak to be a priest. Like, celibacy, are you kidding me? Like, come on, let normal people be priests, please. When you debated Big Papa Fascist and he said he was Orthodox. Remember when I debated Big Papa Fascist and he was like, no, I'm not Catholic, I'm Orthodox. And I was like, oh, what are the differences? And he's like, well, the differences are that Catholics agree with us, but we don't agree with them. I was like, okay, so what do you disagree on? Nothing. Like he doesn't know the difference between Catholic and Orthodox, because again, to him, it's just like a Nazi badge of like, yeah, dude, it's so transparent. He lied about that part as well. Well, he lied about everything. That was the silliest conversation I've had in the entire history of the channel. I've never had a guy ask me, hey, what policies would fix this, while I'm reading out loud a study explaining how a policy would fix it, and he's just talking over me to deny that it would work while I read the study that says it would work. Like, I've never experienced this before. This is fully new to me. Vaush, for what it's worth, each regional church is broadly self-governing. The Greeks don't always get along with the Russians, etc. Okay. I think that, like, most of the Orthodoxy, I think, tends to align pretty heavily with the Kremlin. But yeah, that's true. I don't know much about Greek Orthodoxy, so maybe Greek Orthodox wait, hold on. Greek Orthodox Church. We'll decide based on how rad a cathedral I can find is. That will be how we decide whether or not the Greek Orthodoxy is cool. Here's a Greek Orthodox church in Columbus, Ohio. Yeah. Wait, this image is not very good. Here, Holy Trinity Greek Orthodox Church. I'm converting. Ugly? Ugly? Are you insane? Are you... Hold on, guys. I found a picture of the most attractive Protestant church. There we go. See, the guy stands up here. You can tell it's the most attractive one because they have this nice couch in the back. See, that's not the stuff that you would normally get.